Hello students, welcome to my new video, and this video is going to be really very special and important for those students who are especially preparing for BA third year exam of Allahabad University and UGC NET examination as well. So my friends, it's my request to every one of you to please sit with your rough copy and pen so that you can note down the important things. My special instruction and advice to those students who are preparing for BA third year exam of Allahabad University. In your examination, you will not only be asked text-based questions. Sometimes you will be asked about the critical appreciation. Long answer type questions आपको मिलेंगे और जिसमें आपसे पूछा जाएगा किसी भी पोएट के बारे में, किसी भी पोएम से रिलेटेड उसका क्रिटिकल एप्रिसिएशन. सो इफ यू डोंट हैव द जनरल आइडिया एंड डिटेल्ड नॉलेज और एनालिसिस अबाउट दैट पर्टिकुलर पोएट, his or her biography, then it will be very difficult for you to supply the answers in your examination. So you need to be extra sincere and attentive, and if I'm telling something, you have to keep everything in your mind. So as I said, in today's video, we will be having a detailed analysis of confessional poetry and confessional poets. So many important things I have already written on the whiteboard. Later on, you could have a snapshot so that you can note down these important things in your rough copy or fair. So, my friends, as you can see, the title which has already been written on the whiteboard, Confessional Poetry and its Poets. Let's understand the word, the root word, which is confess. Confess. If we discuss its parts of speech, in grammar, confess is actually a verb. And when we make its noun form, it becomes a confession. Confess, which is a verb, and confession, that is noun. What does this mean? Actually, confess means to admit, to acknowledge something, to admit something. आप देखिए कोर्ट में आप जाइए, वहाँ पर जो क्रिमिनल्स होते हैं, जो गिल्टी होते हैं, वहाँ पर वो कॉन्फेशन करते हैं, कॉन्फेस करते हैं. और अगर कॉन्फेस मीन्स टू एडमिट और टू एक्नॉलेज, सो कॉन्फेशन मीन्स एक्नॉलेजमेंट. 1950 टू 1960 के बीच का जो टाइम था इंग्लिश लिटरेचर का, ये बड़ा ही यूनिक पीरियड था. ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड द पीरियड बिटवीन 1950 टू 1960. इट वाज अ डिफरेंट पीरियड इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर. Some new young poets, they came into light and they introduced a new form of poetry. आप ऐसे भी कह सकते हो इंग्लिश लिटरेचर, इंग्लिश पोइट्री में एक रेवोल्यूशन का पीरियड था ये. दैट ब्रॉट अ रेवोल्यूशन, अ चेंज. अभी तक के जितने हमारे पोएट्स, राइटर्स और ऑथर्स हुआ करते थे, वो पोएम्स तो लिखते थे, ब्यूटीफुल पोएम्स लिखते थे, बट कहीं ना कहीं उनकी पोएम्स में, उनकी पोइट्री में, उनकी वर्क्स में वो खुद को रिवील नहीं कर पाते थे. अब ये एक ऐसा पीरियड आया दैट बिकेम अ पीरियड ऑफ सेल्फ रिवीलेशन. पोएट्स स्टार्टेड रिवीलिंग अबाउट देमसेल्व्स. सो इफ I tell you the definition of confessional poetry, which I have already written. Confessional poetry, it was a style, a form in which the poets, they started revealing their own life experiences about their physical, mental traumas, bitter experiences, sweet, sour experiences of their life, about their distress, death, family, friends, about their perceptions. They started mentioning, they started highlighting in their works. So एक अलग टाइम था ये. Confessional poetry, in other words, it can be called the poetry of I. I is personal, in which poets started revealing about their personal traumas, relationships, psychological aspects, real life experiences, death, depression, etc. This idea, it came into light in 1950 in America when, as I said, Robert Lowell, he introduced this word in his book Life Studies. First time this word confessional was introduced by Robert Powell in his famous book Life Studies. अगर हम थोड़ा सा और डिटेल में समझें तो अभी मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले बताया, इसके पहले पोएट्स ने जो अपनी वर्क्स लिखी उन पोएम्स में उन्होंने खुद के बारे में कुछ नहीं एक्सप्रेस किया. नाउ अ चेंज केम. पोएट्स started shedding that mask that revealed themselves. Poets started shedding that mask that revealed their identity. Now they opened everything. They started describing about themselves. So kahin na kahin the gap that used to be earlier between the poets and their poems, now that gap was abridged. अब poets और poems, उनकी poems के बीच में वो gap नहीं रह गया. I hope you're getting. Now there was no gap between the poets and their works. So this form of poetry, confessional poetry, it removed the gap between the poets and their poems. If we talk about the famous poets of confessional poetry, as I said, the first time this word confessional, it was introduced by Robert Lowell in his famous book Life Studies. और धीरे धीरे और भी ऐसे poets आए. इंडिया में भी, if you have heard the name of Kamala Das, she was also a confessional poet. She also used to write confessional poetry. Except them, there were more poets like Anne Sexton, Robert Lowell, Sylvia Plath. इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में अगर कॉन्फेशनल पोएट्री ने एक्सट्रीम हाइट को टच किया, सो द क्रेडिट गोज टू सिल्विया प्लैथ. In next videos, I will be telling you about Sylvia Plath and her two beautiful poems, Mirror and Daddy. Both are confessional poems. So this video is important for you all. Before I teach you the next two poems, Mirror and Daddy by Sylvia Plath, you have to understand about, without understanding confessional poetry and confessional poem, it will not be a good idea to study those poems. So confessional poetry touched its golden heights and the credit goes to Sylvia Plath, John Berryman. They all were the famous confessional poets. So my friends, I hope in this video you have understood and got a detailed idea about confessional poetry and famous confessional poets. Very soon I will be back with the beautiful two poems, Mirror by Sylvia Plath and Daddy. Till then, goodbye. Thank you so much.